Hello and welcome to episode number 133 of WP Café, the show where we share the real unfiltered experience of running a WordPress business. I'm Keith Devon, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host Mark Wilkinson. We are from Highrise Digital, a tiny agency building WordPress websites and products. Today, we're diving into a few different topics. We have paid discovery phases and whether clients are actually prepared to pay for that kind of thing. We have a fairly exciting new update to ACF and Ollie's new Class Manager, and I'm sure we'll throw in a few extra goodies, here and there for you. You can follow us over on X at WP Cafe Show. Find us on Blue Sky and the web wpcafe.show. If you do enjoy the episode, please do consider liking and subscribing to the show, and also comments, sharing, all the good stuff that helps the algorithm and helps other people find this content. And as always, we'd love to hear your thoughts. So if you are watching along live on YouTube, please do say hello in the chat. Your questions and comments along the way are always very much appreciated. So before we get started on the topics, a little catch up because it's been at least a couple of weeks, maybe a few weeks now since we did a show. So Mark, how have you been? What have you been up to?
Yeah, it's been good. Been very cold here in the UK this last week.
Yeah.
Well, I'll say last week. It's probably the last few days, actually, really, isn't it? But it's supposed to warm up a little bit at the weekend, so it's been nice. I say a little bit, and I mean a little bit, like 4 degrees warmer than it was, but it was like freezing.
Yeah. It's been a pretty mega swing in temperatures. Like it was 15 degrees 1 week here, and then feels like -2 in the last couple of days within a week. So yeah.
Big differences. My week's been fairly boring, really, to be honest. I've had some sales calls, some interesting new integrations, possibly for the Job Relay products, which is good. We've done one as well, which has been successful. I think it works for Bullhorn, so that's good. Just getting the jobs coming in, which is good. Did a bit of accounting this morning. That was exciting. Not, and then I've been writing a specification, which we'll come on to. So that was most of my morning today, trying to hammer that out and get as much detail in as we can. But yeah, what about you?
Lots of bits and pieces. It's been it's been very bitty recently. So there's 3 RecPress builds on the go at the minute, which is great. I mean, it's not the most fun work in the world, doing those, but it is quite satisfying whenever they're launched and the client's really happy with them. But it's I mean, it's not overly creative or interesting as a problem to solve. But a few of those on the go. And then just some stuff for some clients. Really, we've had some stuff on for the school website that we did recently, and for our big recruitment client. Lots of stuff on the go for them at the minute. It's been a little bit bitty. And then, like you say, we've had some sales calls and emails and stuff to talk about in that area. So maybe we had an
interesting call as well with a managed WordPress host earlier this week about some performance problems that one of our clients were having. So their sites kept sort of like going down sporadically for like a minute, and then they'd be back up straight away. So we were on a call, and it was good actually. The developer there, well, engineer, I suppose you'd call them, really, was sort of like looking at all the logs and giving us information about which things was like running more and so on. It was an interesting call. Never really had one of those before. So we've now got a few things to go away and look at to try and optimize. Some are really straightforward, like switch this on or switch this off, if that makes sense, that sort of thing. And some of them are a bit more complex. Cron jobs was one of them that seemed to be a bit of an unknown as to what was running and why it was causing issues. So I've got to look into that. So we'll see. But
there was one running really quite often, wasn't there? Was it one every minute or something? Was that the link juicer one?
Yeah, there's a plugin. We didn't add this plugin. The client added this plugin called Link Juicer. I don't really know what it does. It's something to do with like creating internal links for you.
Yeah.
And it seems to run a cron job that runs every minute to do something.
That seems crazy to me.
But I need to look into it, because on the face of it seems crazy, but then you can look at the tasks that are running on the cron job, and they don't seem to run every minute. So I don't know what's going on, whether this thing is firing every minute, but actually nothing's firing because once it fires, it decides, well, there's nothing to do because there's nothing.
Yeah.
The stuff that I'm actually running shouldn't be run now. I don't know. But anyway, I think we need to ask, like, what is that plugin for? Why has that been added? Because as I said, we didn't add it, they did. And actually, I mean, it might be fine. I don't know. Well, that's the whole point. Yeah. I don't really know. So let's look into it.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was interesting.
It was interesting. Yeah, it was good. It was good. Paid discovery. Let's give a little bit of backstory to this then. So we had an inquiry recently from a recruitment agency asking about us rebuilding their website. And it's come with a lot of it's fairly standard stuff that we do all the time because we work in recruitment, and build a job board and just refresh the design of the website. That's all very well and good. And then there was a fairly extensive list of other things, other bits of functionality. Some simple, seemingly simple, like job alerts, newsletters. There's a few others. And then there's just these kind of like increasingly complex additions, things like paid job listings, adverts, advertised courses for their clients. So there's all these kind of like extras. And we had the initial sales call. We went through a few things with him. We then went away. We came up with a bunch of questions we had based on the brief that we had. I think that we got the brief after the sales call, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
So then we went through the brief, and they were like, oh, "Okay, right," and then we've got questions because it was maybe the brief was brief, like it was a page or two.
It was very brief. Yeah, it was just a couple of pages listing sort of like functionality and things that were wrong that needed fixing and things that were not present that they wanted to be able to do.
Yeah. So we had a second call. I don't know, was that about an hour long or something, going through the brief and all the questions we had off the back of it, which was good.
And I think it's important to say, like, those questions were they were clarification of functionality, but they weren't exactly how things would work.
Yeah. Like, what do you mean by selling courses? Yeah.
So we'll see. Carry on.
Yeah, no, it's things like, you want to sell courses on the website. What does that mean? Like, what is a course? Like, so yeah, we're trying to clarify some of that stuff. So that was fine. So we came away from that, and we put together an estimate. We're like, right, well, where are we? What can we deliver at this stage? And it's basically like, we've got enough to give them a ballpark range for the development, and then we'll go from there. If we're in the right ballpark, we can continue the conversation. So we sent that across, and we sent that across with if you want to go ahead, we would need to do a discovery session to really nail down the specification and the scope, and we're going to charge for that, and that's where things started to fall down a little bit. So how did the client react to that?
And that's to get to the detail. We take one of those pieces of functionality that's mentioned that we would consider as non-standard, as in there's nothing off the shelf that just does that. We've never done it before just like that, so we don't really know. So we don't need to ask lots of questions about that. And the client came back and basically said that's fine, that the budget seems fine, like that, the estimated cost, but I don't expect to pay for a discovery phase. I'm happy to answer all your questions now. Essentially, that's what it was.
Yeah.
So that was a bit of a shock. Well, it wasn't a bit of a shock because I'm more in the camp that people don't expect to pay for this, and that doesn't mean to say I don't think they should, because I do think they should really. So I think I sent an email back which was along the lines of trying to explain why this scoping and discovery session was beneficial to the client and to us, to everybody, so that there's going to be no surprises. And I kind of put a bit of an analogy in there that if you know, essentially what they've said to us at the moment is, I want to build a house. It's going to have 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, and that's it. Can you give me a price for it?
Yeah.
And yeah, a builder could say, yeah, I can give you a price for that. But there's so much more detail that needs to be done. So what would you do? Well, you'd get an architect to draw up the plans for the house and you would pay them. And that's essentially what we're saying now. You know, the builder might be able to say, well, yeah, for a 4-bedroom house with 3 bathrooms, you're looking at between 300,000 and 450,000. And then the architect would build the plans, you'd pay them, and then the builder would be able to say, right, yeah, that's £410,000. That's the sort of analogy we provided. And the reply was, I still don't expect to pay for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's where we got to.
Yeah, and we went back and forth a few times, didn't we, with that?
Yes.
And the same thing every time. I'm not happy to pay for this. And so we were kind of scratching our heads a little bit, weren't we? And really, I think we both were actually really on the fence about whether we proceed. You know, is this red flag territory, or is this someone being a completely reasonable human being? You know, are we going to insist? Are we going to stick to our principles because we know this is the right thing to do? Or are we going to compromise to win the work? So they had lots of questions, and we were very, very close to walking away from it. I think we both kind of decided it, and then we were both like, "Oh, just wait a sec," but, and then we kind of walked ourselves back from the precipice a little bit. Precipice, yeah, precipice. Precipice. So yeah, we decided that we would compromise essentially, and the compromise has been that you are currently putting together what you believe the specification should be.
Yeah.
Would you even call it a specification, or is it proposal? It's not going to be a detailed technical specification at this point, but it is.
Oh, it is. It is. It's going to be
very detailed.
It's going to be obviously the normal specification that we would deliver to a customer. We talk about, you know, how the website will be built, what sort of pages they're going to have, what sort of templates.
Okay.
Less so these days, more blocks and how they're going to handle that sort of thing. Content types are going to have all of the stuff that we normally include, but then for this extra bespoke, you know, functionality, I'm going to outline under each of those things what I believe is that functionality. So, you know, if it's paid jobs, how are they going to work? You know, you're going to have a product. I'm going to list it all out. How I've interpreted that to be. It's currently 20 pages and it's not finished. So it will be a detailed, the whole point of it is detailed. This is what we're going to deliver for you. And this is the quote for it. That's the whole point of this.
Yeah.
So that there's no surprises. And I'm currently, nearly finished. There's a couple of sections which you just need to sort of pad out, and then you haven't looked at it yet. So obviously, once you've looked at it, we can add some changes and things to make it better and cover most things. And then from there, we're going to present that to the client. They can have a call with us. They can make some suggestions for changes, bearing in mind that suggestions that they make will change the quote. It's unlikely that quote is going to go down unless they take stuff out.
Exactly.
If they make things more complicated or so on, then obviously the quote's going to go up. So that's where we're at, really. And then we're going to send that over probably next week.
So why do you think that even after 2 or 3 emails trying to kind of explain why this is necessary and why it's valuable, why do you think this client still didn't go for it? Wasn't prepared to pay for that discovery phase?
I can't answer for why the client didn't, because it's them, not me. I would suggest, and he kind of said this in the email, that they've never paid this before. So why would they start paying it now? As in, they don't see this as a part of a website project. They've never seen it as part of a website project. They've never been asked to do it before. But so that's why I think they don't see it. And it's not 50 quid, is it? It's a decent chunk of money. So I kind of get that. And we
But it's
live in a
also
world.
a hefty project. Has he ever done a complex web project before, like a software project? Which is what
I
this
don't know.
is.
I completely agree with you. Like I said, I'm in the camp where I believe it's necessary. I don't, but I do understand why customers don't. We live in a world where people tend not to pay for this thing. If you want a new blind in your lounge or curtains and you want someone to come out and give you a quote, you don't pay for it. They come out and they measure and they get everything in, and then they give you some options with prices. You don't pay for that. You can walk away without paying anything if you don't want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I think the mentality comes that, why am I paying for a quote? That's what they see it as. Whereas they're not really paying for a quote. They're paying for
It's true.
a service to deliver a specification as to what they want to quote on.
It's true.
So I do wonder whether it's at least partly our fault for not explaining what that is better. But then we did really try in that email dialogue. So I don't know.
It's slightly different, and I'll kind of explain why. But going back to the house building analogy, so we use that as part of our argument to say you're basically paying for the architecture, like which it's not a perfect analogy. And I was just thinking there, I did get an architect whenever we were redoing our house. We paid for an architect. We then put those drawings out to tender to builders.
Yep.
None of the builders turned around and said, it'll cost you X for us to give you a quote. Even though, imagine how complex quoting a house build is. Even though that quote potentially took them days to do, they didn't charge me for it. And would I have paid for it? Probably not. So it's slightly different because I'm giving them exactly what I want. I'm handing them architect's drawings and saying, I say that it's not actually exactly what I want. There was still a lot to decide on, plumbing and electrics and finishes and blah blah blah. So yeah, maybe I need to suck that up from now on.
But maybe
it's a lot of work though, and it's a lot of value. We're giving our expertise, like detailed expertise about the best way to achieve things as well. It's not just taking what he's telling us and writing it down. It's taking what he's telling us, interpreting it, thinking about the potential problems, the potential opportunities. What if we just did this instead? What if we try this thing? What if we use this plugin? There's so much value wrapped up in that. It seems crazy to me not to charge for it. But then you could argue we will charge for it when we win the project.
And that's my point. Maybe this is something you've got to suck it up. You'll win some and you'll lose some almost, But when initially an inquiry comes in, like we don't always need this for a project, because it depends. No. Like if they just come and said we want a recruitment site and they were pretty much the same as other ones, we wouldn't really need discovery phase. We can write the specification. We know what they want to deliver. That's fine, because we don't really have any questions to ask about the product. And if we do, we can usually ask them on the sales call, and the answers we get are sort of easy enough to interpret that they're easy to put into the specification.
Yeah.
But maybe if we're insisting on this discovery phase going forward for projects that require it, then we should change the way in which we approach the sale. So, for example, once we've had the initial sales call where these additional features were discussed, I say discussed, presented, I want to do X, I want to do Y, I want to do A, I want to do C. At that point, we've decided this can no longer be just an off-the-shelf. We don't do off-the-shelf builds, but you get my point. Like a normal website build, everybody knows what they're getting. At that point, we can say to the customer, right, do you have a project specification?
Yeah.
And they'll say no. And they'll say, well, we can't build one without a project specification. So actually, before we can quote on the website, you need this piece of work done.
Well, yeah, exactly. You need to give us a detailed brief.
And if you can't do that yourself, then you need someone else to help you with it. And we are perfectly capable of doing that with you for this much cost, and this is this little project that we'll do.
Yeah.
Maybe, I mean, we kind of do have a post about this, don't we, on the website? But this is what we need. This is the detail we need in a project specification. And by the way, the likelihood of you being able to deliver that is slim.
Yeah. I think you're probably right. That's how we should have said it. Yeah, we'd love to do this. This is our estimate. We're going to need a detailed project specification. Let me know when that's done.
Let me know when that's done and send it me.
Yeah.
If you're struggling to do it, we have a product that you can buy essentially, which is us building one with you for you.
Yeah.
That said, I still think the answer would have been, I don't want that, and I'm not paying for it. And I think that would be the answer for most people. So I think we're currently sitting in this space of we're building websites which are slightly more complicated than standard brochureware builds, and that's good. But that increases complexity, which we need clarification about. But the projects aren't big enough for the customers to really understand and benefit from a paid discovery session. They don't feel the value in it, and until they do, it's really difficult to get past that phase. If you are building a university website that's got so much on it, I get the people that are in that space, looking for a partner to provide that, will expect a discovery phase, and they'll expect to pay thousands of pounds for it because they know it's necessary. Whereas the customers that we're landing, they're out of that brochureware space. That's great, but they're nowhere near that other phase, so they don't see the value in it, and they don't see that they need it, and therefore they don't see why they should pay for it. And I kind of understand what they mean there. So I think we've either to take a stance and say, go with that first option, like we need a spec, let me know when you've sent it to me, or we'll do it for you, or we absorb it into the cost, we win some, we lose some, and eventually it'll just even itself out. And I'm leaning towards the last one. I'd love to know what other people think if they're listening. Do they do this sort of thing? How do they handle writing specifications, quoting for this sort of stuff? Like customer asks that you want this feature, you need to tell them what they're going to get, and how do you quote for it? Fascinated. I'd love to do it. I reckon we could do a whole show on that if we got some agency owners on the show and talked about the process of how they do this. I think that'd be really fascinating.
Yeah, if anyone wants to come on, or if anyone knows anyone that might want to come on, let us know. That would be a really good show. I think that would help a lot of people as well. But yeah, so definitely. We'll see how it goes. Hopefully you cover most of what needs to be covered in that specification, and he agrees, and we move forward. And hopefully it's a really successful project. It is a project that I wanted to do just because of the nature of it and the challenge of it and the industry that it's in. And so
fits as well, doesn't it, really?
Yeah, I hope we got it.
Good.
So a couple of moving on, there's a couple of updates in the industry from a couple of products that we like. The first I wanted to talk about was ACF. They did a little webinar the other day. And they were showing off some of the funky new stuff they've got coming. So basically, ACF are trying to really improve their editor experience to become more native feeling, and it looks really good. They're making a lot of progress. It seems to be that there was some kind of blocker to the stuff that they were wanting to do. Around the way the editor is loaded and styles and scripts are loaded within the editor, that meant they couldn't do things that they wanted to do, and that blocker has been removed, and now that they can kind of build all these cool tools. So the webinar was Ian Poulsen, who's the product manager of ACF. And he was just demoing some of the cool new stuff. So it looks great. So just as like a little brief kind of what I took from it. The main thing, well, I guess there's two main things. One you may have seen already, which is the extended sidebar. So
that was good.
ACF has two ways that you can edit they're blocks. I'm talking about blocks in ACF. So there's two ways you could edit blocks. There's the sidebar view, and then there's the toggle between preview and edit on the actual block itself.
And to clarify, that's where you'd have fields on a block, ACF fields on a block, and you're either editing the content of those fields, whether it's a drop down or a text box or whatever.
Yeah.
In the block itself, in the preview mode, edit mode or it's in the sidebar on the right hand side, isn't it?
And they're both. I mean, they both can be good. The sidebar gets very cramped very quickly.
Yeah.
We use it a lot, but especially for things like repeater fields and things, it doesn't work particularly well. And then the other view kind of takes over the screen and completely changes, it kind of disconnects you from that what you see is what you get kind of experience that you were kind of aiming for with the editor. So they've got a new kind of extended sidebar. So this kind of panel that kind of comes across from the right hand side of the screen that kind of replaces the sidebar and kind of covers some of the screen, but you can kind of still see stuff in context. So that was good, but they've taken things a step further now, and you can actually edit text just by clicking on the text in the block editor and just retyping it, and that's updating the field values of the fields that you've added. And they've also allow you to use a contextual toolbar above some of the blocks as well. So you can, if something is a link, for example, you can add the URL directly there rather than in the sidebar or having to open up the edit mode or whatever. So you can add things like that. So yeah, super cool. It's going in a very, very good direction. And I can see us using this stuff.
It's definitely feeling a lot more native, which is nice, I think, which is good. I do think, the sort of sidebar sliding panel that they've created then that comes in over the sidebar. I wonder whether that's something that Core could use, because I was editing. Remember when I put the advanced query block onto that site we were using because we wanted to exclude and a category, and it didn't do that. That's an example of it's not core, it's been enhanced, but it's like a block. And even that block had so many options down the right hand side. You've got post types and categories and authors, and then there was a custom meta builder in there, and it did start to get very cramped. I wonder whether Core could kind of take that and say, once a block gets so many settings, you could have a button that sort of pops it out almost, so you can see it in a bigger screen. And actually comes on to the next topic we're talking about, which kind of does that. So we'll see, but I think these are really massive improvements for ACF, who already do a great job at being delivering blocks in a far easier way than any other way. So I'm looking forward to using those. Looking forward to having a play with them as well, for sure. So I think you can play with them right now. I think there's a beta version out, 6.7. So presumably, if you're a customer, you can download that and start having a little tinker with it. So I'll be doing that over the next few days.
Yeah, it's very cool. Yeah, they're doing really good stuff. And then that comes on to another team, or is it just an individual doing very cool stuff, which is Mike McAllister at Ollie. And he put out a video that I watched earlier this week about the new Ollie's Class Manager. And this is essentially a way to organize your CSS, your custom CSS within a WordPress website if you're using the Ollie theme. So you can create you can already add classes to any block using the kind of advanced little drop down in the sidebar. So you can add classes, but he's enhancing this so that you can add classes and then manage the CSS for those classes all within the editor. And like you say, he's got this kind of pop out thing that comes out to give you this kind of class manager interface, and it lets you kind of select which class you're editing, lets you add all the CSS. It's got all the pseudo kind of it's got hover states, got all the kind of states along there. And then you can add multiple classes to things. You can search classes really easily. It's really, really nice. And I think one of my kind of problems with WordPress development at the minute is that there's some CSS in theme JSON. There's some CSS in the customizer, say, or the kind of custom CSS panel. There's some CSS in my theme CSS files, and there's like all these different places and ways to add it. And I think this is kind of starting. And I don't know if this is necessarily a good thing or not, but it's helping the movement towards keeping all the CSS kind of on the website. So maybe I don't even need to write kind of CSS in the theme at all anymore in the future. And that's the kind of direction, obviously, that Kevin Geary's gone a little bit with Etch as well. It's all very class based. So I think, I mean, they're not the same. Etch and this class manager are not the same thing, but it's the same idea of like making classes like important again. Excuse the pun, but yeah.
A couple of things I liked. I think one of them was that, really simply, you could assign existing classes much easier.
Yes.
So if you've applied a class to a block, and the application of that class, a bit like a style, does something with that block, it makes it a featured one, or styles it in a particular way. The client's got to know what class to type in the advanced box. And I know there's ways of solving that. You could create a pattern for them that has the class on. But this allows you to just click a box, and then some classes pop up, and you can search for classes, things like that. So that was nice.
Yes, I like that.
But then the other thing I was thinking is, like, should we be doing all this in there as a developer, as a site builder using Ollie? Then yeah, absolutely. I'm a florist and I'm building my website, and I know a bit of CSS. This is brilliant, like really good. But I just wonder, like, should we be building them this way, where all the CSS is in there? I don't really know the answer to that.
You can't version control it for a start.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not part of our deployment kind of workflow. So that's potentially a problem. It does seem to be a very specific kind of use case. I think you're right. I think for some of the more complex stuff, like, I would never have gone down this route with some of the big builds that we've done. It would have been a nightmare.
Yeah, I thought so. Yeah, but it is. Do have a look at the video. It's really good to understand how it works, and what they've built there is very good. I also wondered, why is it not a plugin, like on its own as a plugin, so that I can use it on my site without Ollie Pro, as a paid plugin maybe? Yeah, I don't know. I think a few of the ones, because he's also got the menu one, hasn't he? And then he's got the
menu one was released as a standalone. You can just install it. You don't even need to be an Ollie customer. Yeah.
So I wonder why this one isn't, because I see this as lots of people watching that video and thinking, oh wow, I want that, but I don't want to use Ollie at the moment. I'm happy with how I do it now, but I'd love to use that. So I wonder if they're just missing out there. Like, have it as a plugin that people can pay for and download.
Maybe they will. Yeah, maybe they will. But yeah, you're right. It doesn't seem to be particularly. It's not Ollie dependent at all, I don't think.
I don't know. I don't think it is. It's just it's not even like theme dependent, really, is it? It's just functionality that is good.
I was wondering a couple of things about it. One was, where does this leave styles, block styles? Because all adding a block style does is add a class to that block. So it'll be is-style-your style name. So could Mike have maybe somehow hooked into block styles? Or should we just be forgetting about block styles? Are they just kind of pointless? I don't really know how these two things kind of fit together. I guess one thing is with classes, you can have multiple classes and you can only have one style. But I wouldn't know which one to use then going forward. I guess if I'm using the class manager, I'm not writing my own code, that I can't write styles anyway. So I would just be using the class manager to do all this stuff. But the interface, it's a bit split, isn't it? Effectively to do the same thing, the interface is a bit split.
It's a little confusing. I think styles. I really think block styles need a bit of a lift as well, because if we're going to keep them where you can only apply one, and I guess there are arguments to saying, well, actually, I want more than one, but then can you have multiple block styles applied to a block? It's like saying, can I have multiple colored T-shirts? Can I wear multiple? I can't. I've got to wear one or the other almost.
I can think of good examples of when you would want to use more than one.
There'll always be. I understand that, but then what would be really good is if I can create block styles in WordPress, in the site editor. So I can say, I want to create a new style for my button. Here's the style name. Here's the CSS for it. And then it appears as a style when you add a button.
100%.
The moment you can't do that, you have to do that in code, and then you have to write the CSS either in line or you put it in not the customized, whatever it's called. That seems to me like something that should be available to people, I think, because then they can reuse those things better.
You've reminded me of a couple of other points with the class manager that are really good. One is that you can use custom properties.
Yep.
So you can use your theme variables in the CSS as like you can just click on them and they kind of auto populate. And the other one is how performant it is. So it is only serving that class CSS if you're on a page that uses that class. So there's some really good performance stuff going on with using Class Manager as well. So yeah,
a couple of things, because when he talks about that, only it's very performant. It looked like the CSS output from the Class Manager was all compiled into one output because it had all the different classes in. So does he mean that when any block has any of those classes, I'm loading all that CSS? Or is it just the CSS rules for the class that I've applied?
Yeah, I can't remember the exact, because he did share what the CSS output looked like. Was that from all of the classes, or was that all of the CSS from a single class? That's what I can't remember.
It looked to me it had different selectors in, like dot.
But he was showing he was showing nested selectors and things, and you've also got all the different states. So I'm not sure.
I mean, even if it loads them all depends how many you've got, it's still better than just loading it every time, isn't it? So
yeah,
well, that's good. But my final thought is you mentioned variables, CSS variables.
Yeah.
If I'm the florist building my own website and I've got a bit of knowledge of CSS, I won't have touched theme JSON.
No.
So do I understand what that is? What a primary background is? What I don't know. I think I'd be confused by that.
Good point. Good point.
I just think, well, I want it to be red or my hex code color, so I'm going to do that. Whereas actually, that's already defined. I don't think they know that that's already there.
I don't think this is for florists. I think this is for people who build websites for people.
Right.
So
is it not for us then, or is it for us?
I would say it is probably more for the Elementor users,
assemblers,
Divi users. Yeah, okay. more that like web professionals that aren't maybe coders, like
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know the word assemblers or whatever. I don't want to use a disparaging term because I've got a lot of respect for people that do that.
No,
but yeah, essentially, I think that's the market, and potentially us going forward. If it's the right kind of project and these tools mature, and we're not there yet. It's just still since like Gutenberg came along, I just don't feel like we've found and this is like as an industry, we've really found our feet. Like we've really found this is the way to do things. Like there's all these different tools, and the FSE is great, but you need this thing to cover this hole, and you need this thing to cover this gap, and these two things don't quite work together. It's a bit of a bodge, but that's it's not just a really nice, slick way to build websites yet. I don't think. I mean, WordPress is still amazing. We literally called our last podcast that. It really is. Like when you look at some of the other tools out there, but
the counter argument to that is like
very disjointed.
What they've done in WordPress over the last whatever it is 6 years since the block editor came out, it's a complete and utter change of what it used to do. So it is going to take time. You could argue 6 years is too long. I do think it does take time. Think of the WordPress project before the block editor and how that matured over the previous 20 years for what we had. And it took a long time. So actually, it will take time. And it always just gets better and better. Mike builds cool things like this and the menu thing. And then I see tickets that right, we're going to build that as well. And we're going to try and do it. Right? That's how it works. People come up with ideas. They do things. and it just takes a bit of time, I think.
It does feel like the progress on the kind of block editor though is slowed. I don't know if you feel like that. If for me, it's been a while since there was a change that was like, oh yes, that's great. That's going to really help. Like I can't think of one, and there's so many things that are still so terrible. But then we're getting things like the abilities API, so that AI can run functions on my WordPress website. It's like, who cares? I don't care.
Yeah, but you could argue if they don't do that, they just get left behind, aren't they? So
yeah, that is the argument.
That's, I think
that's another show.
It's not in a bad place. I think there are lots of things we could do, but like I said, I go out and do them.
Well, that's what Mike's doing.
Get involved. And that's what Mike's doing. She's great.
Mike's like basically taking all these pain points that people like us have and being like, I'm going to fix them. I'm going to solve that. I'm going to solve the menu, the WordPress menu block. I'm going to solve handling CSS and block themes. Yeah, fair play to him.
Great to see.
Yeah. It is amazing.
Good.
Let's wrap it up there. We banged on for long enough, haven't we? Thanks for joining us today. It's a pleasure to have you along, Excelams and Tim, in the comments. Good to see you here. Thanks for joining us. If you did watch today's show, please do give us a little like. Give us a subscribe if you want more, and share it with your network if you can. We will probably be back next week. We're kind of doing shows at the minute as and when we have something interesting to talk about. So if you do want to know when we're back on the airwaves, hit that subscribe button and the notification button, and you can find us. See you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.